parents. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Look at all these beautiful faces.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Okay, I think Joel.
I did.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. I'd like to play Shalom Aleichem to start things off.
Thank you, Joel, for starting off our Shabbat with some beautiful music, a melody that welcomes in the angel of Shabbat, while at the same time reminds us that this week we are indeed marking Tisha B'Av as well as Shabbat Nachamu. So I wanted to sort of set our tone that way. So thank you. That's beautiful. And I know you'll be back with one more at some point this evening, and I'll cue you up for it. So thank you for making that our beginning of our Shabbat service so lovely. So we will begin with candle lighting, which you will find on page 9. Now, I will tell you that the setup this week for the Shabbat candles is not as good as last week, because I'm moving to Royal Oak this weekend from Cincinnati. So most of my possessions are packed, and the books that I usually use for leverage are packed already. So I'm gonna light the candles and we'll do the best we can. And if you have candles at home, I invite you to take a moment to light them now, and I will meet you at the candles. Even my Shabbat candles got packed, so we're just improvising this evening. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. So this week we celebrate the holiday, or we mark the fast day of Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av literally means the 9th day of Av, which is the month that we are in currently, and it is the day of mourning for our people. We commemorate the destruction of the temples. We commemorate how our people sort of how we've suffered over the generations, and it happens that this day, Tisha B'Av, is also part of like other catastrophes that have happened sort of go on to this day are sort of, it all sort of comes together in that the Crusades also started on Tisha B'Av, or so we say in our tradition. So I wanted to start with something a little different this evening, which you will not find in your Siddur, but this Shabbat is also Shabbat Nachamu, which is the Shabbat where we start to find comfort after we understand and acknowledge the destruction of Tisha B'Av. The idea that both of the temples were destroyed, and that actually has led to something really beautiful and great, which is the Judaism that we practice today. And this idea is that Tisha B'Av sort of leads us right into Yom Kippur. It leads us right into the Chagim. These next 7 Shabbatot are called, are the Shabbatot of comfort, where we are building. But also this is the time to start our Teshuvah practice. And I love the imagery that that Tisha B'Av is like this broken, desolate, cracked world, and we are starting to rebuild by doing our own teshuvah, our own practices to build our world and make it a little bit more whole. So I'd like to share with you a poem by Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt, who writes a lot about how to take care of oneself and what it means to be spiritual. As Tisha B'Av approaches, we begin our descent toward the rubble. Our hearts crack open, and sorrow comes flooding in. Help us to believe that tears can transform, that redemption is possible. The walls will come down. Open our eyes. Give us strength not to look away. We will continue in our Shabbat service, welcoming the Sabbath bride on page 14 with Lecha Dodi. Yalla la lecha dodi, yalla la la likra kala, yalla la la pnei Shabbat neka abela, yalla la lecha dodi, yalla la likra kala, yalla la pnei Shabbat. Pnei Shabbat nekabela, Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, Ishmianu el hamyochad, Adonai echad, U'shmo echad, L'shem ol tiferet, Velidchila, Yalai, Yalai, Lecha Dodi, Yalai, Likra Kala, Yalai, Pnei Shabbat Nekabela, Likrat Shabbat, Lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila, yalalai, yalalai lecha dodi, yalalai likra kala, Yalalai pnei Shabbat nekabela, Hitoreri, Kiva orech, Kumi Uri, Shir daberi, Kavod Adonai, alayech nigla, yalalai, yalalai lecha dodi, yalalai likra kala, yalalai pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom, Ateret bala, Gam besimcha ubtzola toch emunei am segula Bo'i chala ya la la lecha dodi ya la likra kala ya la pnei Shabbat nekabela. Before we continue, I just want to remind people that this is an odd situation to be doing. I mean, I don't have to tell you that. You know, this is an odd situation to be doing Shabbat on Zoom. However, I invite you to use the choreography that we already have in our prayer practice to whatever extent you are comfortable, physically able, or to whatever meaningful extent it has for you. So if at home, Zoom has meant that you are sitting instead of standing for different things, or it's meant that you're standing instead of sitting for different things, or you're sitting the whole time, that's all okay, because we are in this together, making this work, and worship and spirituality, while they are connected to movement sometimes, there is more to prayer than choreography. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page there. So do what's comfortable, please, and we're glad you're here in whatever way you can be here. We will now turn to the Hatsey Kaddish, which you will find on page 17. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah be'alma divrach yirutev yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uchayetecho beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imeru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Ulal Me'ol Maya Yitbarach Yishabach V'Pa'ar V'Trama V'Yinaseh V'Tadar V'Taleh V'Talah Le'elam Mikvah V'Shirata Oh, what a surprise to hear all of your voices. How nice. Lovely. So I'm going to ask, we're going to unmute in a moment to sing a little together, but I'm going to ask you all to mute now for Baruch Hu, and then I got it. I promise there will be some more singing and prayer opportunities together. So Baruch Hu on page 18. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated if you are standing. Another prayer by Rachel Barenblatt. I'm going to share this one in the chat. If you're a reader instead of if you're a visual processor instead of an audio processor, I'd like to share this one with you just so you have it. And thank you, Fred, for doing yeoman's work here. I appreciate you very much. This is a poem called Evening. You mix the watercolors of the evening like my son swirling his brush until the waters are black with paint. The sky is streaked and dimming. The sun wheels over the horizon like a glowing penny falling into its slot. Day is spent and in its place the changing moon, the spatterdash of stars across the sky's expanse. Every evening we tell ourselves the old story. You cover our sins, forgiveness like a fleece blanket tucked around our ears. When we cry out, you will hear. Soothe my fear of life without enough light. Rock me to sleep in the deepening dark. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. We will join together in Ahavat Olam on page 20. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta, Amcha Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu lemadeta, Otanu lemadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu, U'kumenu nasiach bechukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem negeh yomam v'layla, negeh yomam v'layla. Ve'achavatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, Ohev Amo Yisrael. It's an interesting prayer to sing on a night when we're thinking about destruction and about rebuilding. This idea of God loving us. And then in a second, we'll chant the Via Hafta, in which we are saying we will love God. And this idea of love, even through these desolate and dark times, I think really, when we're thinking about the destruction of the temple, we're also thinking about our current situation and how that love still exists even in that darkness. And that really brings me hope, which is basically everything I'm looking for these days. I don't know if y'all are with me there, but I do feel a lot of hope when I think about the idea that love exists in such a big way. So I will now ask you, as part of a holy community who, has a lot of love, to unmute yourselves for Shema. I do understand that it's going to be a cacophony. If you weren't here with us last week, we're calling this holy noise. So please unmute yourselves as we join together for Shema, the watchword of our faith. Let's join together. Shema Adonai Echad Baruch
Go back to being mute.
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם בשיטתך בביתך ובלתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. Thank you all. It really, it makes my heart just fill with joy to hear your voices and to know that we're here together, praying and being in community is really, it's a joy for me. So as we think about mi chamocha, this idea of freedom and what it means to find freedom in a time where everything feels like the destruction of the temple was the end of everything for the Jews who were living at the time. And then it happened again. And the idea that somebody has to, that a people would go through that and still maintain some idea of joy and keep this prayer in our liturgy is, it's fascinating to me. So I'm going to read another non-Siddur poem called Redemption Poem, and I'm going to put it in the chat so you can follow along if that's a better media for you as far as learning. This is called Redemption Poem. What did they think as the waters rose up their legs, chilling their hearts, advancing towards their open mouths? We continue to walk here now, 1 foot at a time, on our better days, forward. Alone, I cannot reach the far shore without drowning, but somehow I didn't go under. The person to my right holds me up. Something I cannot see holds him up. Blessed is the source of help, so often unexpected. I step forward. The sea is vast. We'll join together for Mi Chamocha. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot Osei fele, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Osei fele. It is so wonderful to pray with all of you. And talking about this idea of a source, a shelter of peace, a source of comfort throughout the storm, a source of comfort throughout the destruction. I invite you to sing Hashkivenu with me, to pray this idea of Adonai, of God, or whatever your concept of God may be, whatever words you choose to use for something greater than yourself, spread a shelter of peace over all of us. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Hamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Ufros aleinu Vashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu lechaim. Baruch atah Adonai hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, God, who spreads over us a canopy of peace over us, over all of Israel and all the world. So sometimes for me, when I'm thinking about challenging moments, the hardest place for me to be is in silence. Because hearing my own thoughts or existing in a world in which things are complicated and they feel like they may have been destroyed in some way, it's hard to sit in silence in those moments. So I wouldn't usually do this, but I think it's a really good practice for us to try to do a silent Amidah, which might look like a couple of different things. We'll sing the first line together. I'm going to ask everybody to unmute in a second, not yet. We'll sing the first line together, Adonai Sefatai Tiftach. And then I invite you to answer some of these questions. What do you need to say to God or the universe tonight? What do you need to lament, literally pour forth from your heart? The idea of Tisha B'Av is the lamenting, the sadness. What is your response to the world's brokenness this year? And what healing do you yearn for? So I invite you now to rise if that's become your custom. For Adonai Sefatai Tiftach, we'll sing together, and then we'll put you all on mute and give you a few minutes. You can use these questions that I'm going to put in the chat, or alternatively, you might want to use the words that were written for us by our sages. Also totally acceptable. You can stand, sit, whatever is meaningful to you. All right.
Standing up.
Yes, please join me, if you wouldn't mind. Adonai eternal God, open my mouth to declare your praise. Oseh Shalom bimromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al kol Yisrael Ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel Ve'imru Amen Ve'imru Amen Ve'imru Amen. Ve'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al kol Yisrael Ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel Ve'imru Amen Ve'imru Amen Ve'imru Amen Ve'imru Amen. So I'd like to share just a few words with you. Joel, this is for you, by the way. Plans have changed a little tonight, but I will still cue you in when it's time. So thank you. I'm going to, oh, okay. Oh yeah, here it is, okay. Share my screen with y'all. Hold on a second, sorry. We're doing it. Technology, we're doing it. Here we go. So this sort of conglomeration of Tisha B'Av and Shabbat Nachamu is something really interesting to me. And I know that it is a Shir Tikva custom to sort of put the Chagim as close as possible to Shabbat or on Shabbat so that we have the most people who come to come pray with us so we can be in community, because that is who we are. So the idea of this, I'm holding these two truths of, like, this week we talked about destruction, and we talked about the destruction of our world now and the destruction of our ancient world, and Shabbat Nachamu, which is the beginning of these Shabbatot of comfort, this idea that we're supposed to help each other, to lift each other up. So I found these texts. The text that we read for Tisha B'Av is called Lamentations, or Eicha. And these are all different texts where the word Eicha appears, asking how, right? So in the Lamentations text, it literally says, oh, how the city that once was so populous remained lonely. Eicha Yashivav Badad. How does it sit alone? In Isaiah, we have this question of how is the faithful city become a harlot? She was full of justice and now murderers. Eicha Chaita, how it was. You can hear almost in the word Eicha, you can hear the longing. You can hear the drawn out syllables. You hear that, like, the yearn, the cry. I want to say the word whine, but not like not in a connotation where you might use it where your child is asking you for something and you won't give it to them and they whine about it, but more like a deep, guttural, visceral how. Deuteronomy 1:12, Eicha, Esha livadai. How can I alone bear your cumbrance, your burden, and your strife? And as I was thinking about Eicha, the idea of how, I also wanted to see what the question of why might look like. And the question of why, or where are you, or where, I think leads us from this destruction, this idea of Eicha, the howness of how could this have happened to us? How could we be in such a place? Our book for this holiday is, or this fast day, I say the word holiday, but I really mean holy day, not like holiday like Christmas, but holy day. The word is literally like, the word is lamentation. It's how do we lament, how much we cry out. And then the 10th of Av, so the 9th of Av, the Tisha B'Av, and then the next day, which is today, and Shabbat Nachamu begins this process of rebuilding, of teshuvah, of the idea that we're going from this lowest place to the highest place on Yom Kippur, where we get to be in conversation with God in a very unique way. So the question I have is, how do we show up for the next several weeks? We've got 7 weeks for those of you counting, and I know I certainly am, because the high holidays are coming right up. And in this idea of where, in this idea of how are we going to show up, what does it mean to be a part of a community? What does it mean to do the work for ourselves, understanding the destruction that we have done and the rebuilding that we have yet to do? We look to Genesis. Vayikra Adonai Elohim el ha'adam vayomer lo ayeka. Where are you? And I challenge each of us to really think about where we are. You can see this in this last sentence, in this last source. Where will you show up in these next 7 weeks for yourself? What teshuvah do you have to do? And how will you find comfort in doing that internal work along with the external work? This was a paragraph from this wonderful book, which if you haven't read it, I highly recommend. It's called This Is Real, and You Are Completely Unprepared. Oh, my background doesn't really, all right, well, it's disappearing now. My face is disappearing. This is real, and you are completely unprepared. That's what this book looks like. It's a book by Rabbi Alan Liu, The Days of Awe as a Journey of Transformation. And it is a book that I read every year around this time to sort of get my brain in the space. I start playing the high holiday tunes. I really start thinking about sermons and what the high holidays are going to look like. And this was really helpful to me because I was thinking about Tisha B'Av and the world around us. And so I'd like to share it with you. I know you all can read the screen, but I'll share it with you. The time between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, this great 7-week time of turning, is the time between the destruction of Jerusalem, the crumbling of the walls of the great temple, and our own moral and spiritual reconstruction. This year has been building itself up, and now it begins to let go. The natural cycle of the cosmos, the rise and fall, the impermanence and the continuity all express themselves in turning to Teshuvah. The walls come down, and suddenly we can see, we recognize the nature of our estrangement from God, and this recognition is the beginning of our reconciliation. We can see the image of the falling temple, the burning house, that Tisha B'Av urges upon us is so forcefully, precisely in this light. And this idea that as we think about what this year has been and what the last several weeks in our country has been, we get a chance to do some internal work here to turn things around. The word teshuvah comes from this word to turn. So for the rest of our service, I'm going to pick up a little bit of, we're going to hear some more beautiful music, and we're going to really think about the people who we love, who we are turning to, whose thoughts we are thinking of. And we're going to really, as we finish out this Shabbat service, we're going to end with a little joy, which is, of course, my favorite mode to be in, but also it is something that like the hope that this moment allows us to have as we look around this world and we see the destruction and we see the hatred. You know, there are some people who say that the Tisha B'Av, the destruction of both of these temples, comes from sinat chinam, this baseless hatred of others. And we see the destruction that can do. And we have the chance to really make a difference in these next 7 weeks in our own lives, in the lives of the people that we love, and in the lives of the world around us. So Joel, if you'll grace us one more time.
Yeah, I'm going to play a beautiful melody that most of you, I'm sure, know called Eli, Eli. And I think it ties right in with the theme there of Lamentations that the rabbi mentioned. So it has a beautiful minor mode to it. It's just a lavish, beautiful melody.
Thank you, Joel. Really incredible. Thank you. The English words to that Hebrew melody that Joel just so beautifully played. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, and the prayer of man or of people. Hannah Senesh wrote that poem, and Hannah Senesh was an amazing historical figure who was a one-of-a-kind paratrooper, and she was really a unique person. And at some point in a later date, we will do some study on her poetry. But Joel, I thank you so much for bringing her words to light in a beautiful new way. I know we're all really hungry for music, and you have fulfilled that for us this evening, so thank you. To all those names, we pray for the healing of people who are suffering from this world pandemic, from COVID. We are praying for the healing of those folks who may have no one else to think of them. Excuse me. We join together for Misha Beirach, which you will find on page 67. Misha Beirach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Beirach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We will turn to Aleinu, which you will find on page 74. Aleinu, it is on us. I think I've said that every week since I started with you all, which by the way has been 4 weeks, one beautiful month that has flown by and has been like the greatest month, really. I mean, for honestly, not just, I'm not just saying this because you're all here to listen to me and I have a captive audience, but I really mean it. Shir Tikva has embraced me in a way that I really could have only dreamed of when I was in school, thinking about what my next congregation would look like. And I just feel so, so grateful. And if I talk about it anymore, I'm going to tear up. So Aleinu, back to that. It is on us. This idea of we have to take something on now. You know, as we move from Tisha B'Av towards the high holidays, it's on us to do the teshuvah. It's on us to do the turning, to make our next several weeks meaningful, to go from our destruction to our holiest moment. So please join me and rise if that's become your custom on page 74. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, latet gedula liyotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kachem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Before we conclude our service with Mourner's Kaddish, I believe Buck has a few announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So a few. Rabbi Alicia is scheduling a series of small group coffee talks to get to know the congregation. Keep your eyes on your inbox on Sunday when emails will be sent with more information. Join Rabbi Alicia and Sarah Chisholm next Friday, August 7th at 6:15 p.m. for our annual senior send-off service. All college, high school, 8th grade, 5th grade, or kindergarten graduates, plus anyone starting a new school, are welcome to attend for a special blessing. Stay tuned for the Zoom link and more information to come. Sisterhood Book Club meets on Sunday, August 2nd at 3 o'clock. Join us on Zoom to discuss Gateway to the Moon by Mary Morris. Marcia Leipson will be facilitating the discussion. Leslie, our millennial organized lay-led Shabbat morning service group is looking for your feedback. Please check this Monday's e-blast for more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Buck, and thank you for being our board trustee host this evening. You got the quick Zoom tutorial at the beginning there, and I'm very grateful you're here with us. Let me switch screens one more time here. One of the greatest things about the Book of Lamentations, about Eicha, which we read on Tisha B'Av, is that it gives us space to think about turning back. It says, Hashivenu Adonai Kikedem, that line that we sing in Eitz Chaim, Hadesh Yamenu Kikedem, like renew our days. And it's about turning and thinking about the past and the future together. So as we think about the past this evening, we also think about the people who are no longer with us in this moment, but who stay with us through all seasons of the Jewish calendar, the highs and the lows. We rise and we turn together to the Mourner's Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom on page 78. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh. Ve'chayechon uvyomechon u'chayedechol beit Yisrael. Ve'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaled v'yitalal. Shemei dekudisha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, v'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace bring peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved here in our midst and everywhere. Together we say, Amen.
Amen.
So as we conclude our Tisha B'Av service and we move to the next piece of our Jewish calendar, Luach HaShanah, the Jewish calendar is so incredibly beautiful. Because it gives us space to do all the things that we need to do, like mourn and like celebrate. We will join together for Kiddush, which I don't have any glasses left in my house. They're all gone already. Like, not that they're all gone, but they have all been moved. So if you have a glass of wine near you or a glass of something, I invite you to raise it now, and we'll join together in Kiddush, and you'll have a sip for all of us. The Kiddush you will find on page 87. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzav banu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. L'chaim to those who are imbibing. We appreciate you. Parents, do you have a challah nearby? No, you don't have to do that. I just thought maybe somebody had a little piece of challah that we could bless. But, you know, we'll do it and then it'll appear. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom. So the reason for doing hamotzi is because now we'll do an oneg. And the word oneg literally means enjoy. And we do that as Jews best perhaps with cookies and other foods. That seems to be our tradition. But other ways to enjoy are spending